Carrie is Rita. Welcome to the Earth to the Other Side. It's nice to have you on this show. I'm so glad that you decided to come on. Is this your first time on a platform, on like a YouTube platform?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
this is exciting. So, you know what I'll do is if you're ready to go, I'll just give you the floor and you can start from the beginning and let us know a little bit about yourself and what happened. Take us back to that day when you had your near-death experience.
I believe that our souls choose to come to Earth for an experience, to learn and to grow, uh, that we agree what we're getting into when we arrive. So, my first brief near death experience was when I was 1 week old. I was born on a Thursday, and exactly 1 week later was Thanksgiving Day. And I had just come home from the hospital and was sleeping in the back room. And my Grammy was making the Thanksgiving meal. And she told my mom, go check on that, go check on the baby. And my Grammy and her family have a history of having some psychic intuition. So my mother listened. She went back into the room. She discovered that I was not breathing and very blue. And she picked me up by the ankles and smacked me on the rear, which was the common thing to do at the time. and and I I came right back. Um, Now, I actually believe that I was trying to renege on the contract that I agreed to about coming here. But that's all I have besides that distinct impression of how I was looking already to go back to the other side. And then um, my life went on for until 2.5 years old. And that's when my more in-depth near-death experience occurred. And uh, I didn't process it as a near-death experience or anything unusual actually when it happened because I was only 2.5 years old. But my mom and my brothers, both older than I, we went to the Rockaway River in New Jersey to where they used to allow us to go swimming. And the river was swollen from some heavy rains that had occurred. The currents, therefore, were like stronger than usual. And I had a life vest on. Um, and I guess my mom felt comfortable having my older brother, who was only 10 years old. Yeah, you look after your sister. So there was a lot of people swimming in the river. So it wasn't like super dangerous, I guess, at the time. Um, but my brother, being 10 years old, got distracted. And I got caught up in the current and I was floating down the river head first, all right, in a way that allowed the water to flow right into my nostrils. My chest was bobbing up as a result of the life vest that I had on, and I was frantic and so um, distraught at not being able to breathe. And I was fighting and thrashing around. And then it was like my fear and the struggle just vanished because a white light came down to me. Now, I describe this white light as being similar to a cloudy day that the sun's light is trying to break through those clouds, and it makes the cloud brilliantly white. That's the way I say it seemed to look. And it felt like I was no longer feeling wet, or instead, I felt warm. I was safe. I was enveloped in this comfy and velvety blanket of light all around me. And I felt like I was a part of it and it was a part of me. And I remember saying, I'm home. I'm home. Except I didn't say it with my mouth. I said it with my heart and my mind. And I felt so very, very safe and so very, very loved. Now, along with this light, my body had an indescribable vibration with it throughout, along with that white light. And the connection to that light and that humming type of vibration was a union of love greater than I've ever felt before or since. I was completely, completely at peace. As they say, a peace that passes all understanding. And the next memory I had was I was suddenly up on the shore, coughing out water, cold and confused because I was away from the comfort and the safety of that vibrational light that I had just been in. However, a communication channel was opened up, you know. Shortly after my experience, and I was always very reluctant to tell anybody about this, so now I'm telling everybody, but I heard angels singing, and the angel voices, they were always a little bit distant. They weren't like exactly in my ear, you know. Um, the music that they make is unlike any music that we hear here on earth. They use the angels use the vibrations and the voices, their music, to raise our vibration or my vibration. But at that time, because I remember being able to hear them when I was feeling lonely and scared. So it was like a reassurance of that connection that I had back when I was 2.5. I could just say that another thing is that as you allow yourself to connect to the angelic sounds, they raise higher and higher in that vibration. So they'll start, it's like, again, like the light coming to me started with the level I was at. Each time I had a little angelic uplift, it was reminding me, of course, of that peace and love that I had with the connection that I had in the near death experience. And after my near death experience, I kept like a longing to connect back to that light. My dreams became prophetic, and I gained an imaginary playmate too. She looked like me, and I was so young. I just thought that everybody, could hear singing angels and fly in their dreams and had playmates that were invisible to others. I didn't know any different. And I guess nobody was asking me about it, you know. That is until like one day when I was in Sunday school and I was 5 years old. So that's 2.5 years since the experience. And the Sunday school teacher was speaking about heaven. And I like literally jumped up out of my chair, I can't wait to get back there. I can't wait to get back there. And the teacher was like completely disturbed about this and thought that I was suicidal. And so she reported it to my parents, and my parents were like horrified by it and so embarrassed that they reprimanded me to a point of me feeling ashamed, you know. And so I learned, that it wasn't okay to talk about my spiritual experiences. So, in many ways, uh, they started to fade. And, I would hear the angels less and less. The imaginary playmate stayed longer. The flying in my dreams stayed longer. Um, and the visions that I get in my dreams, can say I still have because, um, I know that a connection was made when I spent time in that light and shared the vibrations that I don't understand, but I know is true. A pulsing, like in a system, back and forth. And so I am very close. Well, I was. My Grammy's on the other side now, but I was very close with my Grammy, and we decided, and she was willing to hear me and understand. So not as a child because she was busy in her life of doing things, but when I became an adult and we started talking about the unknown, so you have to recognize that there was certain like amount of shutting down of this experience. Like I wasn't going around saying, "Oh, I had a near death experience." Just sort of pushed it into the background of my memory. And I'm telling you this next part of the story with my Grammy because that's really what gave me the soul memory again of the near death experience. You see, we made this agreement uh, that when she would pass, that she would come and visit me. And, it wasn't something that was unusual in our family because her own mother used to be able to tell from back in the day when they didn't have telephones, even, if somebody passed back in the homeland, and she would hear a wolf call in the night and would know that a family member had passed, and then the letter would come and confirm it. Well, on June 6th, 1998, she passed at the age of 97. And I remember that morning I did burst out in tears for no reason at all on my way to work. And driving, I'm like, I gotta go see my grand as soon as I can. I gotta go see her. And then later in the day, when I was called out of work and everything, that was just exactly the time. But that wasn't what we had arranged, It was supposed to be like one of those visits, the bedside visits you may have heard about. So I sat, around. It felt like waiting and waiting and waiting, twiddling my thumbs. When is this experience going to happen between the two of us? So uh, it was 2.5 years. And I took the time to check that out because numbers have seemed to play a lot in my world. Exactly 2.5 years later, I had a girlfriend whose son was passing from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And she asked me to come visit and pay him a visit, and I did. And then when we had a moment alone, I kind of leaned in and, because he wasn't communicating with words at that time. And I said, listen, Danny, when you get to the other side, will you please remind my grandmother I'm waiting for her? And then I left, and not that day or that night, what I had hoped for. Ah, my internet says it's unstable. I hope I'm not going to freeze up on you. She came to me in a different kind of a light. Because you remember, I described the light as being so bright white because it was behind the cloud kind of a look. This was more your yellowy orange. And again, though, that feeling of the warmth. So I think that's what helped to trigger my memory, clarify it again, of my near death at 2.5. And I sat straight up in my bed and then held out my arms, and I felt her come right around. She had a very distinctive and beautiful hug that she would give, you know. And as I was in this embracing of energy and love, 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 I said, if this is the only communication we have, it will be enough to confirm. And immediately, as I said that, it began to dissipate. And I was regretting that I had expressed, oh, could I just have a little bit more? Because it was just so warm and so loving. So
Yeah, I bet.
yeah, that's what helped me to get back in touch with recognizing that we all have gifts.
Mm,
And um, I I do believe that we can use the gifts that we're given to help one another. And that's my hope to remind you that, maybe uh, you might not have had a near death experience, but you spend time in nature and you connect there with the greater unknown and our creator? Or is it through music? Or how about animals and that unconditional love that they give us? And so many forms like chanting is another way to call in the energy from our ancestors. And I have recently been finding clapping, remembering that clapping is a part of an ancient way to call in the support from the other side. And breath work, I like to tapping, and being with others who believe, like watching this program,
yeah.
are all ways
Yeah,
that
all the things that you suggested are really interesting, and I would think they're very good ways of connecting, for sure. Meditation as well is like a no-brainer. Like that's a great way to connect. Anybody can do that. Doesn't take a lot of time, and it's life-changing, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
And the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Yeah.
I've been meditating for many, many years. And I'm finding as I'm aging that I feel like maybe, because of the connection I'm getting closer to going
We
and
all are.
ready, but but I feel like that's also helping to diminish, because part of that story for me is that I started off knowing, and then it was like society tried to shake it out of me, you know?
I think this is the issue with everybody on a certain level because I think maybe a lot of people don't remember, but it's exactly like you said. It just sort of it withers away as it gets pushed out by ideals, and then suddenly our spiritual self just sort of disintegrates. And and a lot of people are fortunate enough to reconnect to that and incorporate it into their experience, which is great because I mean, after all, it is an Earth experience. We want to, you know, experience that and whatever the purpose of our being here is. But everybody has one. We know that. And I yeah, just think I thank you for sharing that. And I really am very interested to know like when the memory started to come back. I know you touched on that a little bit, but did you ever speak when it initially happened at 2.5 to your parents or your grandparents or anybody about this experience? Like out loud.
To my brother,
Okay. How
not
old
to the
was your brother?
adults.
Okay.
My brother, not the oldest one, not the one that was burdened with watching me, but the one that was in the middle. And he was only 3 years older than me. And he had the gift too. He was very much interested. So I maybe that was part of the reason why I didn't have to speak, to the adults. I already had a willing companion in exploring.
So, what do you think, to what degree do you think you understood what had happened to you? Was there, because you had mentioned earlier, I'm not sure if it was on camera or off camera, you had
Yeah.
mentioned earlier about the fact that you never really recognized it as an NDE at the time.
Yes, I did not recognize
Right.
it as an NDE. It was more like the angel singing to me that helped, there was a change. I didn't have that before. I had the experience and then came in. I never, so uh I already was probably connecting some dots right there.
Was there any like particular moment where like you had an aha moment and said, "Oh my God, that's what happened to me. I died,"
Yeah,
or
it was reading a book. It was reading somebody else's.
oh.
Yeah.
When you had your NDE, where you didn't hear any voices, right, initially, or at all?
No, no
No.
voices at all. I guess because I was so young,
Hmm.
it was just again, acceptance. I just felt a level of acceptance. I was eager, because remember, I went from complete panic and fear right into peace and love. Like they are the absolute opposites. Like I said, it's not necessary to have a near death experience.
Nope,
It's
definitely
you
not.
you can connect to these spiritual forces that are ready, willing, and able to assist us through this earth journey,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
even in our darkest and lowest points, that's probably when they're shining the brightest for us.
Well, Carrie, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story, your experience with everybody. I'm sure it's going to be a story that a lot of people will resonate with, and I'm really grateful that you were able to come on and share it. Thank you so much.